Howdy Neighbors, David here. And today on Boondock Stallyns, we're going to be talking about Doctor Who Flux and the possibility that we have met the Doctor's parents. What? Now, before we get started, go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll keep pumping out these bad boys for you to give the thumbs up or the thumbs down, depending on what kind of day you're having. So, Doctor Who Flux. Now, before we even get started, let me address the Timeless Child story. I don't like it. Personally, don't like it. Couldn't care for it any less if I tried. And you know, even in ways of thinking about retconning it or making it so that it's the Master that's the Timeless Child instead of the Doctor, any way you want to look at it, it's there, it happened, and we have to go with it. And that is literally the whole point of this channel, is that if whether you like something or dislike something in your fandom, you still support your fandom. Like, I'm not a big fan of Chibnall's era of Doctor Who. I think Jodie Whittaker deserved a little bit better storytelling and a little bit better writing than she got, but you know, it is what it is. And having said that, I'm actually really liking what's going on with Flux, even though I'm also completely self-aware that it feels like I'm being pandered to by Chibnall, because he's doing all these things to remind us of the Davies era or the Moffat era. Just, hey kids, remember this? It was fun then, it's fun now. And while that's good and all, and I do like, you know, callbacks, it's a little bit unnecessary, but I'm not going to complain because so far his writing has really stepped up its game this season, and so I'd like to give him some praise for that. But having said that, like I said, not a fan of the Timeless Child, and if we're going to go with the Timeless Child being a canon thing and we're going to run with all of this, let's take a look at the theory, the possibility that we've gotten to see the Doctor's parents in what I'm going to call the Moffat loop, because the Moffat loop is something we clearly haven't seen since Moffat was in charge of the show. And the Moffat loop, for people who don't know, is what Whovians refer to it as. When Stephen Moffat tells a story, he likes to start it at the end and then have the Doctor circle all the way back around to the beginning to know how it works. And like even him and the whole parallel between him and River Song going from back to front on their timelines was this big overarching Moffat loop, and we haven't seen it since then. And since I said that it feels like Chibnall is giving us a lot of callbacks to previous eras of the show, even classic era. As a matter of fact, like, everything about Chibnall's run of the show has been very classic Doctor Who. He really didn't pay attention to the upgrades and new designs of the New Who era. He wanted to make his run of the show feel more like the old show, and I really do like his concept designs for Daleks and Cybermen. I really love the Cybermen, not the Cybermen Time Lord so much, but his Cybermen were really good, and I really like the Sontarans. Thank you. Goodness, I almost forgot their names. I almost said Sontaran like I'm Donna Noble or something. Anyways, so we haven't seen a Moffat loop in quite some time, and having said that, it looks like we could, in fact, be getting a Moffat loop here in Flux. And I mean, because that's what Flux is. Flux is things are in flux, things are changing, which is also, by the way, a sneaky little retcon device that he's worked into the overarching theme of the show so that he could even delete the Timeless Child thing should he want to at some point, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So, in this episode, it starts off by introducing us to the character of Belle, who is going from planet to planet looking for someone that she's lost. And you find out at the end of the episode that the person she's missing is Vindor. And Vindor is also looking for her. And you also find out that the person she's been talking to is her unborn child. And so, looking at these two's backstory, like, these two would get along great with the Doctor. The Doctor would have great love and respect for both of these characters. They both each have qualities themselves that the Doctor possesses herself, and I believe that these two are in fact the parents of the Timeless Child. Now, the reason I say that is because when you find out where the Timeless Child came from, the Timeless Child was found from another dimension, another universe. Like, there's no explanation as to where this child came from. And my thoughts on that were, if the Flux destroys the universe and this is the end of the universe, then the timeless child born at the end of the universe could be popped into another dimension and found, and it's this loop, once again, the Moffat loop. It begins where it ends and it ends where it begins kind of situation. And so you find out that the timeless child was born into the end of this universe so that she could go to the beginning of the other universe and be there for all of the awful, torturous things that Tecteun and the Time Lords do to learn how to regenerate themselves and give themselves the powers of the gods and yada, yada, yada. But that would also give you this chicken or the egg style of storytelling, because that would mean that the Time Lords came from themselves, essentially. So with this being the end of the universe, the Doctor hid herself and her companions in their own timelines to buy herself time. And you find out that she goes into this one branch of her timeline where she meets an unnamed mysterious woman who tells her, you know, given the fight, it's over. What's done is done. The flux happened. This universe is over. Like, that right there lets me know that it's just a reboot of a different universe, and it's going to circle in within itself. And you could even find out that they're not even in the right universe. There's a theory out there that when the Doctor regenerated from Peter Capaldi into Jodie Whittaker, that the same event that knocked David Tennant and Rose and Mickey's Doctor out of time and into the Age of Steel and the Rise of the Cybermen universe where Pete was still alive, happened and knocked the Doctor into a parallel universe, and that all of Jodie Whittaker's era has been happening in another universe, and her whole mission objective there, which is also why the Ruth Doctor exists. If you think about that, there was no Doctor in that universe with the Cybermen. You know, when David Tennant's Doctor got there, there was no other Doctor to come in and save the day. And if the theory holds true, then that's because the Ruth Doctor, who would have been the Doctor at that time, was in hiding as a human, as Ruth, and was unavailable to be the Doctor, and the Tardis knew that, which is why they sent David Tennant there in the first place to save the world at that time, so that the Ruth Doctor could come about later on. It also explains why nobody seems to remember all these things that happened during the Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat era of the show, because the Doctor's name got very big. People saw aliens crash land and all these great things that went down between humans and aliens in that era. But if the Ruth Doctor was asleep and none of that ever happened, then we would be living in a universe that doesn't have a Doctor, which explains why nobody knows who the Doctor is in the Jodie Whittaker era of the show. That was quite a lot to say. So, with that in mind, it would also explain why the Doctor doesn't remember Ruth, and Ruth doesn't know anything about the future. Well, I mean, obviously she wouldn't know anything about the future Doctor, but it would explain why our Doctor doesn't know about the Ruth Doctor, because at some point in that timeline, any of the original versions of the Doctor could have regenerated into somebody completely different than what we got in our Prime universe. And so that explains away the different regenerations, different universe, to same Doctor. So I think that really does tie in well there. And it also could keep in fact that the Doctor isn't the timeless child in our Prime timeline. While that may be the case for Ruth's Doctor in that universe, when you come back to our universe, it could be somebody completely different. It could even be the Master, and I really, really, fingers crossed, hope it's the Master. But like I said, it is what it is, and if it is true, then I'll accept it and see what happens later on in the future, because, you know, 10, 20 years from now, they could retcon that just like Gallifrey falls no more, Gallifrey falls again. Who knows? Who knows? Anyways, so having said that, the idea that Bel and Vindor are the parents of the timeless child and are starting their journey at the universe's end is very plausible and very in line with the Doctor Who brand of a Moffat loop. So let me know what you think about that down in the comments. Are you liking what's going on with Doctor Who this year? I know a lot of people, like I said, haven't been a fan of the Chibnall era, and like I myself, I've seen Chibnall do a lot of great work on Doctor Who, a lot of great work on Torchwood, and so I was really surprised that he for the most part, dropped the ball as far as excitement and better storytelling. Like, the scripts just needed to be a little faster paced, a little more urgency, sometimes even funny. I know I hate to get off topic here, but the Saranga conundrum with the Pating, that had the potential to be a funny thriller of an episode. I mean, I know it was meant to be like the Twilight Zone episode with the gremlin taking down the ship, but there was also a Bugs Bunny cartoon that made fun of the exact same thing. And there's a gremlin trying to take down the plane that Bugs is on, and Bugs, always being the one who can outsmart anybody in anything, cannot for the life of him get past this gremlin. Like, the gremlin is always 3 steps ahead of Bugs Bunny. And the parallels between Bugs Bunny and the Doctor are phenomenal, because the Doctor and Bugs Bunny are both always thinking, always talking, always finding a way to maneuver out of a situation that has become bad for them and make the other person the fool, and even make their own guns blow up in their faces. And so the fact that they found somebody that they couldn't outsmart was very funny, and it had the potential to also be terrifying, because all these lives are in danger, as this little gremlin slash Pating creature had the potential to take them completely out of space and leave them stranded and dead in the vast darkness of outer space. So that's all I really have to say about that, and let me know what you think if the Vinder and Bell theory turns out. I know this theory got away from me here at some point, but I wanted to get this out there as quickly as I could. I'm excited. I have to get ready for bed. I got work in the morning, and I just watched the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer like 1,900 times. And having said that, I'll say this. I think the reason that they didn't show Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in the trailer is because they're going to be the cavalry at the end of the movie. They're going to come in and save the day when it's over, when everything is completely overwhelmed. Our Tom Holland Spider-Man, and he is, about to have it throw in the towel and die, much like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man was being killed by Sandman and Venom at the end of Spider-Man 3 when Harry decided to come join the fight. I think that's going to be when these other 2 Spider-Men come in and are like, hey, we're here. It's going to be their Avengers Assemble moment from the end of Endgame in their movie. That's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Be excellent to each other, and party on, dudes.